the cluster truck scaling strategy, Go Puff goes proprietary, and Muncho's 7-minute pizza delivery. That's all ahead on this week's Monday Minute. Monday Minute works like this. We've picked 5 headlines from the week's biggest stories, and we're going to share our thoughts around them. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay, first question is for you this week, Meredith. Go Puff have launched their own proprietary line, which is a strategy we talk a bit about in the book. Why does it make sense for restaurants to take note of this?
Well, first of all, I would say good on Go Puff. Anytime you've built a great customer base, a customer base who trusts you, it's time to go with private label. And they're doing it a bit earlier than most retailers, but I think it's fantastic for them and for their business model and their profitability. And that's why restaurateurs should take note, because anytime you can do something with your own brand, you have the potential to increase your margins, which is obviously beneficial to your profits. There is a fine line between paying for someone else's brand, say when you do a collab, and getting the potential sales bump and access to new customers that you get from that, and the margins that you get from doing it your own. All right, for you, Carl, Cluster Truck has some interesting news about their scaling strategy. Can you tell us, I guess, first remind us who Cluster Truck is, and then second, tell us what they're up to.
Yeah, so the Food on Demand article that we'll put in the link below suggests that marketing in new markets has proved a little difficult for Cluster Truck. And then the article points to this new modular building. Note I say modular building, not a modular shipping container a la Reef. So it's going to be an interesting one to see as they're looking to start to deploy this in the next few weeks. They're going to be really incorporating smart kitchens into these modular buildings as well. And they're going to try and create a consistent operating model so that it's easier to deploy units and therefore making opening new locations easier as well. Now, we know, of course, from our experience that adapting existing buildings, the permitting, shifting traditional kitchen to optimize off-premise setup is challenging. And so therefore, there's a real lesson there for everyone in that kind of strategy. And I think the other thing is really they don't want to move to a new market without being able to open up 4 or 5 locations around the same time. It also says there.
I was wondering how this modular thing was connected to marketing.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes sense, right? When you think about it from that standpoint, it just brings us back to marketing. And so Cluster Truck tells us there when they come to a new market with new brands, new concepts into an entirely new market, it's probably very inefficient to make that marketing pay back if you've only got one unit there to see those returns through. And so, it's a lesson, I think, for all restaurants to really think about when breaking into new markets. Don't consider the idea of moving into a market with just one unit and seeing how it goes. Expand with a network planning strategy that expands your brand's reach in the most optimal manner.
Yeah, and now that there's so many new ways to expand the brand, you can do that more easily. In the old days, if I wanted to enter Houston, and I was going to build 40 restaurants to do it, it was going to take time, and I was going to be subscale for a little while. But now that you can enter Houston maybe with a flagship and a ghost location, possibly some host kitchens, there's a much easier path to getting to scale quickly. I see it now, Carl. I was wondering where you were going, but I see it now.
And your first part of your question, by the way, was about, who are they? So for those of you that haven't read our book and haven't heard of Cluster Truck, they're a type of fully integrated ghost kitchen. It does the ordering platform, the cooking, it delivers the food. And certainly when we spoke to their CEO, Chris Baggett, he said it was one of the only ghost kitchens out there to be making a profit. So, perhaps for that reason, I was a bit surprised that they haven't expanded beyond the 7 locations that they have right now in Indianapolis, Ohio, and Kansas City. But maybe what we'll find is that through this new scaling strategy, we're going to see plenty more cluster trucks out there pretty soon. Okay, our third question is around a Technomic survey, which is talking about 2022 and perhaps a bit of an uneven recovery. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, so Technomic, for those of you who don't know them, are an industry data review and forecaster, and they have excellent data for the entire restaurant industry. Tends to be the large restaurants who have subscriptions to what they put out. So whenever you see an article citing Technomic, or frankly MPD or Black Box, you jump on that because they have amazing data that they're referring to in those articles. In this particular one, Technomic put out their 2022 sales forecast for the restaurant industry. And great news, we've recovered and exceeded 2019. But when you peel it back a little bit, what they say is we've recovered in terms of total sales volume because prices are up so high. And if you look purely at transactions for the restaurant industry are still down compared to 2019. And of course, transactions are the lifeblood of the industry. You know, everyone will take price increases. They're great. It's wonderful for the industry to be able to increase prices against a fixed cost base. But it turns out if you don't get people coming through the door, all the price increases in the world don't matter. And so in this particular forecast, they said that transactions will be for 2022 at about 92% of where they were in 2019. And frankly, that's not enough for the restaurant industry. I guess good news, bad news that there are some restaurants that still have not reopened and the total restaurant count is lower than it was in 2019. So those transactions are being serviced by fewer locations, but still not exactly what we want to see. And I think for all of us dealing with Omicron and new variants as they come out, it's understandable that some people still aren't ready to go back into restaurants or not go back in at the rate that they were going previously. But in order to see truly a healthy restaurant industry, we need to get that number back up. All right. So, Carl, Combo Kitchens, named #1 by Entrepreneur in Franchise Ghost Kitchens. Tell us a little bit about that, because I confess I haven't even heard of Combo Kitchen.
Yeah, I don't think they've had the most amount of PR, quite honestly. But if Entrepreneur ranks you as #1 in the Ghost Kitchen franchise category, it's probably worth us talking about it, right? Now, I wonder how many Ghost Kitchen franchisors out there are there? And potentially I'll put it out there to suggest that has Entrepreneur Magazine got this wrong by even putting this company into the Ghost Kitchen category? Now, let me explain. Combo Kitchen was founded by a franchising czar, Hossein Kazmai, I think is how you pronounce his name. And he's launched hundreds of franchises in the past. Bit of useful info there. You know, expert in franchising, but is he an expert in restaurants? Now, within its first year, this company already has 150 franchises open across the country, right? So really kind of interesting just from the standpoint of the growth that they've already been able to attain, given the fact they were only founded in 2020. But here's the rub. It's not a ghost kitchen franchise, really. It's a service that enables you to be a ghost kitchen. They pair brands with your kitchen, much like a Franklin Junction does, and they have a license arrangement with restaurant brands like Salad Works and Dickey's Barbecue Pit. So it's an opportunity to cook other brands out of your kitchen. So as per their founder's suggestion in the video on their website, you could find a second generation restaurant that perhaps is closed and repurpose it for using it to service off-premise guests only. But again, I think it's really important to clear things up because we always run into this piece around what's a ghost kitchen. And a ghost kitchen is like hardware for a restaurant. It enables you to have a fully optimized kitchen for off-premise consumption. Virtual brands are brands that have been solely created for the purpose of enhancing the capacity throughput and cuisine diversity preferences for customers. And you know, this, while it's a restaurant's way to expand a brand's reach through someone else's operation, is really a licensing agreement. But I guess, Meredith, it doesn't have as good a ring to it as the world's first ghost kitchen franchise, does it?
That's right.
Okay, our last question this week is about a company that I just love the name, first of all, Muncho. They're cooking and delivering pizzas within 7 to 9 minutes in vans all across Philadelphia. And they have a 50% repeat rate from their current customers. Are they onto something?
Well, you know, I confess when I first read this, I thought, isn't this just Zoom pizza all over again? And haven't we proven that that doesn't work? But you know what I think is interesting about this is that the guys are bootstrapping. And I think sometimes too much money can lead to a lot of, questionable decisions. And when you're bootstrapping and you've taken $150,000 from your friends, you make different decisions, right? Decisions that are much more likely to lead to profitability more quickly. And so I actually have some optimism for them and what they're doing. The other interesting thing about the angle that they're taking is that they are looking again to create a franchise model so that the capital intensity of kitting out the vans with the ovens is taken on by, you know, a widely dispersed network of franchisees. So I thought this is a very interesting one, very creative guys, and I think could work.
Okay, so that's it for this week's Monday Minute. Thanks as always for your attention and listening to us. Hopefully you found this week's edition interesting. Please leave your questions below, any comments that you've got on what you agree with us, perhaps some things that you disagree with us, and what you'd like us to cover in future editions. But for now, enjoy the week ahead, and we'll speak to you next Monday. The Monday Minute is available for you to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Watch us on YouTube and follow us on all our social media Learn.Delivery channels. Thanks for listening.